on, kids? It's episode. Oh fuck! I don't know if I know. It's 104. I think It's episode 104 of the Demons from Outer Space. I'm almost positive. I've fallen into my usual trap. I will never learn from my previous mistakes. I know it's episode 104 though. But
I'm gonna check on you. We'll see.
Joining me as always, speaking in the background, crackling in with his questionable audio, Dylan McCandless, Super DM64.
Yeah, people say to me, they say, get better audio, and I reply, fuck you.
A very gracious and thankful host. So,
yeah, this is 104.
Great, look at me. Almost positive meant definite. I'm such a prodigy. So,
I mean, I guess.
Thanks for your support, D. It always means so much to me. So on tonight's episode of the Demons from Outer Space, Dylan, we are going to be doing something that we've been planning for quite some time. There's been a little bit of a hiatus for DFOS, about feels like fucking 3 weeks or so, but I don't think it's been that long.
No, probably more like, well, we didn't record last week at the usual time. Haven't we only skipped 1 week? I don't think it's been that long.
All right, so I guess we've only skipped 1 week. And we put up some sci-fi videos in the interim, which if you haven't listened to, you can go ahead and listen to parts 4 and 3 of our... that was a confusing way to say that. Parts 2 and 3 of our top 5 favorite classic science fiction films of all time. You can go ahead and take a listen to that if you feel so inclined. That we put that up to kind of fill the gap for when we weren't doing DFOS. So we're back though. And Dylan, what are we talking about tonight that has been so long in preparation?
Well, those of you who pay shrewd attention to the things we say at the end of episodes concerning what we'll be doing next time probably might be thinking, oh, weren't they going to talk about that book, Reliquary? Well, we decided, fuck that.
I guess we should explain that. That book is not good, and I didn't want to re-listen to it, and then Dylan didn't really want to listen to it because of my not recommending it, so... We'll get to it at some point.
I'm gonna listen to it at some point because I fucking have it on my Audible. So like, it's there. It's just sitting on the cloud, waiting for me to listen to it. So eventually, we can talk about that. And the more interesting part was going to be us speculating about what a movie adaptation of the book might have looked like based on the movie that we got for the first book. So that part still would be interesting. So I said we'll still get around to that at some point. But came up with a replacement topic for that. And we're going to be talking about something that we haven't really, I don't think we've ever discussed, at least not as the main topic.
No, never in any great detail.
Yeah, which is that both Bill and I, one of our many shared interests is a deep love of stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
And we will be talking about that and also reviewing a couple recent comedy specials that have aired on Netflix, but more so beyond that, just sort of talking about the medium in general.
Yeah, because reviewing a stand-up comedy special is kind of stupid. So we're mostly just going to use the recent ones that we've seen as a basis to discuss the sort of medium as a whole. Because yeah, it's definitely a common point of interest for us and a common point of amusement, I guess. It's something that we both like. Dylan, when did your interest in stand-up comedy start? Because it's not something that I was always into when I was, like, a young kid. Like, I didn't really like watching people stand up on a stage and talk. I wanted to see, monsters blowing stuff up. But when I got into my, like, high school years is when I started getting interested in, like, Ricky Gervais's stand-up. And my first foray into stand-up comedy... By the way, it sounded like a fucking dinosaur just died on your end. I don't know what that sound was.
It's this fucking chair. It squeals like a motherfucker.
It squeals like the T-Rex from the Lost World Jurassic Park, the baby one. Anyway, so my first stand-up comedy special is sort of an off-the-beaten-path one, although it was very popular at the time. It's not like it wasn't mainstream. It's just not really a traditional stand-up comedy special. Will Ferrell as George W. Bush, You're Welcome, America. Have you seen it?
No, but I'm aware of it. Yeah.
One of my favorite things of all time. One of my one of the first things that got me interested in politics, even though after that it still took me years to go, oh, I should probably care about this. So, and even now it sort of wavers. Like sometimes I care about it and sometimes I don't. Much in the stereotypical millennial sense. But this was just something that captured my imagination in terms of like this very stereotypical satirical caricature of George W. Bush, who was just leaving office, and we were finally getting a new, exciting, different president who was a Democrat, as opposed to a, guy from Texas, or at least he lived in Texas. That was the key, right? George W. Will Ferrell, who very convincingly steps into the role of George W. Bush, even though he doesn't exactly look like him. They give him makeup and prosthetics to make him look like him more in a wig, but he's not like, he doesn't just look exactly like him. He's obviously not as old and not as weathered looking, or doesn't look as much like a chimp, but he's got the chimp-like features already, the sort of one. So Will Ferrell was always well cast as George W. Bush, I feel. Do you agree?
Yeah. He did him on SNL, right?
Yeah, that's where that started, and then the special came from that, and was just it took that version of George W. Bush off in a whole new independent direction, and now whenever he appears as Bush, it's just a big deal. He came on at midnight on Comedy Central, the Nerdist show, and he talked about Donald Trump. And it was really hilarious, and it was just fun to see him back in those shoes. And that got me back interested in that special, so I rewatched it a couple of times, as a matter of fact, including on election night when Donald Trump was elected as president. And it always makes me feel politically more secure, that we can always laugh about it, even if it's terrible and dark and hard and not filled with hope. But that was my forced foray into it. How about you?
Well, as a Southern person, my first exposure to just the medium in general was the fucking Blue Collar Comedy Tour movie. There was a rental VHS tape of that we had that we never gave back.
We used to steal VHS tapes from Blockbuster all the time. My mom used to work for them too. It was great. That's why we could never go back, because she didn't want to get in trouble.
Yeah. And I mean, that's not the best stand-up comedy in the world, but as a kid it was fucking great. And there are a few jokes in there that if I go back and watch it now, like obviously I didn't get them when I was like 10, and I'm like, I get that. That's
I know what a vagina is now.
Yeah. I mean, it's not the best thing in the world, but I liked it as a kid, and then over time
exactly, because I've never seen that.
It's Jeff Foxworthy.
Not familiar with him really. I'd probably know his face if I saw him, but the name doesn't ring very well.
He used to host that game show where you better than a fifth grader.
Okay, sure then. Yeah, I know him.
His big shtick as a stand-up comedian was the "you might be a redneck" jokes. Although honestly, they're not even his best material. Like he actually has the chops to do better stuff than that. Honestly, but like he developed this gimmick that got really popular, and he just rode that wave. There's another guy in there named Bill Engvall, who I don't really know if he's even still doing it. I haven't seen or heard from him in years.
Him I've heard of.
There's Larry the Cable Guy, which that's probably the weakest link in the bunch.
That was your first foray into stand-up comedy? I guess I can't judge, because...
Well, I mean, he's only 1/4 of the show, though.
Sure,
so
sure. And to be fair, I've never seen a full special from any of them. But I can't be too judgmental of you anyway, because one of my favorite early forays into stand-up comedy was always Dane Cook.
Yeah.
I guess I can't judge you too hard.
No, but yeah, Larry the Cable Guy's in there. Like I said, he's probably the weakest link of the four. And then, but to me, the standout. And if anybody out there has only ever seen this man through Blue Collar, go check out his independent stuff. A fellow by the name of Ron White, who is kind of like awesome. he always drinks.
That's a name I've heard of, but I'm not familiar with him.
Oh, dude, he always comes out on stage with a fucking cigar and a brandy. Like, he's always fucking, he's fucking great. He had a special on Netflix for a while. I don't know if it's still up there or not, but that, oh boy. He's probably my favorite of the four.
I've noticed that most stand-up comedians will drink on stage. Jim Jeffries is the big one. I mean, he gets hammered on stage to a point where it's almost scary. And then Ricky Gervais, less so, will have a can of Foster's on stage, so...
Yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, my favorite of the four was probably Jeff. But as I grew older, I came to appreciate Ron the most. He's the I don't know. He's got an edge to him that the other three guys don't have. You know what I mean? He's the most adult.
Well, there's a good question. When I was young, I always gravitated to the dark adult humor. I always sort of like looked down on the more wholesome comedians on principle. I mean, I enjoyed acts like Ellen DeGeneres. I always enjoyed her stand-up comedy. But I was never into Bill Cosby. I'll be honest. I've never even gotten into George Carlin. I have to. He was always one that just flew me by. See, here's the thing. I always got into these specials because I had on demand for HBO and Stars and all those movie channels, and they would have the different specials.
George Carlin can kind of get dark in a different way.
Oh no, I know his humor gets very adult. I'm not saying that he's wholesome. I'm just saying that he was one that passed me by. Sadly, I will get into him at some point. Were you into Carlin a lot?
Not when I was younger, but a while back, I finally went back and watched some of his stuff, and really enjoyed what I saw. So,
and maybe we should mention this up front. We don't boast to be like experts on stand-up comedy. Like, we're not like, oh, we're fucking scholars of it. We're two dudes who happen to like some of it, and we're going to talk about it.
We're experts to be on fucking Joe Rogan's show right now, fucking shooting the shit with him. Like, he brings a lot of stand-up comedians on his show, by the way. Anybody who doesn't watch Rogan's podcast, occasionally he'll have, like, other UFC guys on, so if that's your bag, you can watch him for that. But also, he gets stand-up comedians up there, so stand-up comedy. Fucking keep an eye on his channel. And occasionally you'll see, like, oh, fucking Bill Burr's over there talking to Joe Rogan. Mm-hmm. And whenever he has, like, especially Burr, like, Bill Burr's been on his show a couple times, and they always have, like, the best conversations.
D, your audio's coming in as really scratchy. I mean, the connection looks like it's as good as it always is, so maybe the mic's just a little close to your mouth? I don't know.
I don't know. How's that sound?
It sounds a little better then, yeah. So just leave it there. It doesn't sound as scratchy. Maybe turn the gain down in your mic. I don't know.
I don't even have a button for that, I don't think.
That's unfortunate. Well, anyway, this is not what the audience wants to hear, although they'd like to hear better audio, I'm sure. But that's, what can we do? Our motto is just, it takes what it takes what it can get. So, but yeah, early influences from my stand-up comedic taste have mostly either remained the same, or the kind of things that I find funny have mostly just sort of extended out, where I'm more aware of more adult humor as I get older. But I've always been into the adult stuff. Like, there are stand-up comedians that I like that don't get too far into the adult comedy. We're going to talk about them with one of the newer specials we're going to talk about tonight, which we intentionally picked out because he doesn't use the adult language of the other comedians that we're going to be discussing. But
right.
Did you find yourself actively avoiding that when you were younger, or was it just sort of like, well, not really feeling it, going to continue to watch people talking about cutting dicks off? Or whatever.
I wouldn't say I was actively avoiding it. I would just say that the ones that I gravitated towards more and the funniest were the ones, saying fuck every 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Chris Rock was another big one that I got into early on. But in terms of classical comedians, though, I always loved Robin Williams stand-up, although he would repeat bits a lot. That's something that always annoyed me. How about you? Comedians who would do bits as sort of like a routine, as opposed to always doing new material. Or at least always doing new material in a certain tour.
It's kind of an older thing. Back in the day, stand-up used to triple their material all the time because, filming specials wasn't even that big of an enterprise yet, so it's like nobody really knew if, people who saw you were coming to see you live. So
right,
you go to a totally different city. You never had to face up to the fact, I've been using jokes for 5 years. But as time has gone on and stand-up comedy is like, A, people filming specials all the time, and B, it's all over the internet. Like,
that's the
comedians
thing.
Comedians have now become more aware of the idea of throwing out old material to the point where now, like, if a comedian has like a really famous joke, sometimes they'll pull it out just to make the audience happy. But for the most part,
bringing back like minor things is fine, and like doing kind of like a continuation of it or whatever. But doing whole routines again, doing whole stories or whatever again. the same way.
Yeah, but
It's that's
for the most
not great.
now, for the most part now, everybody throws out their material after each special and starts all over again.
Mm-hmm. Well, all right, here's something I'll ask you then. Well, who's your favorite overall stand-up comedian now? And then we'll get into the new specials.
Oh, that's a good question. That is, I think.
Man, D, your audio is really terrible tonight. I don't know why. Do me a favor. Unplug your microphone and plug it back in.
Okay. How's that?
Keep talking.
About what?
Yeah, that sounds a little better. We can roll with that. So keep talking about who your favorite stand-up comedian is, or do you want me to say mine? Because I know who mine is.
No, I'll go. It's a really good question, and it's close between like a couple guys, but I think definitely you don't get much better than Louis at the moment.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. Louis C.K. is the king of stand-up comedy because he easily is able to capture self-awareness the most effectively, in my opinion. And I think that is the key to stand-up comedy. To be able to look at yourself and the audience and the position you find yourself in relation to the audience when you're performing, and able to capture that for both the people in the room and when you know you're being filmed like Louis does for a special like the 2017 one that we watched for this podcast, how to play that field as well. I don't think anybody does that better than he does. He just has a humbleness and a darkness and a twistedness and an openness, but still a sort of clever, uncertain ability to trick and sort of manipulate you. He's really a master, and he knows it too. He's very humbly cocky. It's great. And again, I think effectively doing that while always being likable and charming, and always being an endearing, lovable lunk, as he also sort of characterizes himself. I think it takes a true master.
I've never actually gone to see any stand-up comedians live, and it's something that I should probably do at some point.
I haven't either. I don't think.
Considering how much I enjoy the medium, that like half the time when I'm on Netflix, that's what I'm doing. It's like, oh, are there any stand-up specials in there I haven't seen yet? So like, I should probably do that at some point. But Louis is one that, like, if I found out he was like in Nashville tomorrow, I'd be like, I gotta fucking get there. Like,
the closest I've seen is I saw Hollywood Babylon recorded live as a live podcast, but that's not stand-up. It was recorded in a comedy club, though.
Not the same thing, though.
No, not at all.
I mean, you can say you've been to a comedy club, but you haven't seen any live stand-up.
No.
I actually saw something on Facebook today that fucking Jim Jeffries is going to be in Nashville later this year.
Oh wow. He would also be in my top couple. I would have to say Louis. For me, Tom Segura, maybe not as mainstream.
No, he's kind of been coming on the scene more here lately. I mean, obviously, I don't know how long he's been on the road. These stand-up comedians spend like years on the road, like building up their chops, and then eventually they explode onto Netflix, and we all know who they are. But like, he's only got 2 stand-up specials out on Netflix, so like, he's more recent, and I really like what I've seen from him so far. I got my eye on him.
And then I guess I would also have to put Ricky Gervais on there, definitely. Ricky Gervais has always been a favorite of mine. He's got a new tour coming soon, and that's going to be filmed. I can't wait. Ricky has his his qualities that I'm not fond of, but he's always a brilliant, wordsmith, and always a brilliant storyteller. And I mean, that's also the key, right? It's all about telling stories. That's what every comedian always boils it down to. And
his one special where he was just like reading the Bible on stage.
That was Out of England too, when he was reading Noah's Ark, right?
Yeah, that was fucking great.
When he has the animals talking, and he's just moving the pointer back and forth as they say shit. It's hilarious.
Yeah. Do you know who Tim Minchin is?
Who?
Tim Minchin, I think is how you pronounce his last name.
No, the name doesn't ring a bell.
He's this Australian guy, and like, it's not really stand-up comedy in the traditional sense. What he does is he writes like hilarious songs, like the funniest shit you've ever heard in your life, and he like performs them on stage. And like a lot of Christianity is stupid because he's an atheist, but he does some of he's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, I've never heard of him, but I mean, a lot of stand-up comedians do put music into their acts.
Yeah, he's more music than comedy at this point, I think. Like, but it's like it's a different deal. It's like a different experience. But he's also like super fucking talented. Like, he could just as easily be doing like just regular music work if he wanted, but he's out doing this like comedic thing, and it's kind of awesome.
Yeah, no, it's interesting when they mix the two mediums. But I always just prefer just a straight up stand up show. And I'm also okay with a long one. Like Chris Rock, he'll do like 3-4 hours. Like, it's nuts.
Yeah.
But he's a machine, and he's just a machine who can generate content.
Did you, by the way, get to look at the 2 new Chappelle specials?
I did not get the chance. I just watched the Bill Burr one last night. So,
okay.
The ones that we are going to talk about tonight specifically are, as we mentioned, Louis C.K. 2017. That's all the special is called. Bill Burr, Walk Your Way Out, and Jim Gaffigan's Cinco.
Yes.
Okay, so those are the 3. Dylan, I think we should start with the Louis one. We've made the most reference to that. Brilliant, potentially my new favorite of his.
Yeah, potentially.
It's got a lot of competition. My definitive Louis C.K. special is always Live from the Beacon Theater. That was like 2012.
Right, yeah, that's a great one.
That was the one where he did like the bit about fucking corpses, like as a government funded like system in order to stop pedophilia and necrophilia, and he said that he would definitely donate his body to that cause. That was also the one where he did the bit about how white people cannot possibly be from this planet because we're always uncomfortable and we're always fucking with it, and we're the only ones who do it on the scale that we do.
Yeah.
So there's a whole bunch of brilliant bits in there. That's also the one with the story about the kid. I forget what he calls him, but it's apparently I would imagine it's probably based on a real kid that he's had experience with.
Shazanthropus or something.
Shazanthropus, yeah. And it's like just this shit kid that his daughter goes to school with. That's the other thing too.
A lot of comedians tell stories about kids, but Louis, I think, has...
Nobody gives it the personality like Louis does, though, because everybody does the same shit, and Louis does a version of it where it's like, oh, kids suck, but I have to love them because I'm a parent. Louis does that too,
yeah.
But he does it so much more honestly, and also he's very clear about, like, I hate my kids, but I love them and I would die for them.
Yeah.
Like
he
makes it very clear. Puts it all on Front Street.
He has the best kid bits, I think.
Yeah.
Out of anybody.
He made his. I feel like he made his career on his kids bits. I mean, his first show was a sitcom called Lucky Louie, which was, I mean, it wasn't a traditional sitcom. It was like a play on the sitcom formula with way darker humor and a way more dysfunctional family. But it was all about the family, and he definitively based his shtick on the dysfunctional family. I mean, obviously, he also has done a lot of bits about being divorced. And if you watch his TV show, the newer, more popular one, Louie, him being divorced is usually a huge part of the backstory.
Yeah, that is to say the first show that he started. He wrote for a bunch of shit before that.
Yeah, he wrote for the original Chappelle Show, didn't he?
He did some writing for, I think it was Chris Rock. He did some writing for.
And Kedrick the Entertainer.
There was also a very short-lived Dana Carvey show. It was like a variety, or not a variety show, but like a sketch comedy show that Dana Carvey was running. They only filmed 8 episodes and only 7 of them ever aired. But for that very short tenure, he was the head writer on that. He did all kinds of shit back in the day.
He used to be a filmmaker. His movies were never huge.
Yeah, so he played around with a lot of shit before he really hit it big with this stand-up. I mean,
once he got big in the late 2000s, he sort of just became this self-sustaining juggernaut where he is the king of stand-up comedy now.
Yeah, like I mean, he's been doing it for ages. Like you can find videos of him in the '90s. He's got like no beard and like this weird hair, and like he's always wearing a suit back then, which he's gotten back to
He
wearing.
was thin and young and filled with hopes and dreams, and you just look at him now and he looks like just a well defined fucking tree of that man, like a tree statue.
Like I watch his old stuff, and I'm like, yeah, he knows how to tell a joke in these days, but it's pretty clear to me why he never exploded at this time. It's because he's not a piece of shit yet. Like all of his best jokes are about how much of a piece of shit he is.
Yeah, he's not. Well, he's not putting himself on Front Street at that point. He's doing routines that he think will kill. He's trying to sell himself to the audience. You know, by the time the specials that he does now, he just does whatever he wants, right?
Yeah.
So because
Like
he
the
does
one
whatever he
the one
wants,
that he did last year, which had some really great bits in it, but overall it just didn't really gel for me. It's the only Louis special that I've ever been like, you know.
because it had absolutely no spine to it whatsoever. Not spine in terms of like, oh, he was a coward. No, spine in terms of he just told random story after random story after random story, and then it ended. And he even made reference to that when he was talking about fingering a rat. Yep. And then he was transitioning into telling a story about watching The Wizard of Oz with his kids. So it didn't really, you just kind of felt lost in the whole thing. And there didn't really seem to be like any kind of even made up point to it. This 2017 one, hoo boy, he comes out in a suit, he's got things to say, right?
Like I feel like he was trying a new thing, and I think he's managed now to incorporate that into his old thing. You know, he's got a flow like he did in like the 2012 special, like you know his most famous stuff. He's got a flow to it now, and he like transitions naturally from topics. But also he introduced a few like newer things in last year's special that he's still doing. Like he like funny voices. Like he did a lot of voices last year.
Well, he has the oh my god.
Yeah. The either girl or gay dude voice.
Yeah, the prissy maybe gay guy voice. Yeah.
Yeah.
That seems to be his favorite. And
there's a really like
there's a really great bit where he does like a whole, you know, the racist stereotype voices are terrible and they should stop, but they're really funny and they're really fun to do to your kids. And I used to do them with my kids all the time. You know, there was the happy man. Hey there, little girl, you want to have some fun?
When he came out in the 2016 special, he's like, he just starts out talking in that voice. And then he's like, this is how I talk now. I'm just going to do the whole special like this.
That special doesn't feel like he wrote it. It feels like he just came out and told a bunch of stories.
Yeah. But now I feel like he's taken what he was trying to do in that and blended it with what he was doing before. And he's brought back the suit from the early days of his career. And he's got a whole new pep in his step, I think.
I think that he's definitely a man with a mission now. And that's definitely how this special feels. It feels like he's like, listen, things are different for me now, and I'm not necessarily happy about it, but I'm trying to make the best of it. So I really like what he's about in this special. What was your favorite bit?
In 2017?
Yeah. So we're talking about, ain't it?
I think probably the 9/11 deniers.
Oh, yes. Definitely.
That's kind of hilarious. Like, I fucking love it. Because anybody listening to this is like, 9/11 deniers aren't funny. No, he's not talking about people who deny 9/11. His daughter heard the term 9/11 deniers and thought that it meant like some people believe in the number 11. And he takes that absurd premise that like a 5-year-old or however old this chick is now came up with. He takes that absurd premise and just extrapolates it to how it would look in the real world.
Yeah, where there's like actual protesters who are like, we don't believe in 11.
This fucking like raving lunatic who's standing there and yelling like whatever happened to one teen? The government took one teen and replaced it with some bullshit called 11. We are the 9 who deny that shit.
I love that. My favorite bit though is definitely the bit where he's like, the people are pretty much broken up into two camps. People who have killed themselves and people who haven't. And everybody who haven't, that's who's here. We're all here because we just haven't killed ourselves yet. That's not to say that we won't, but we just haven't found the motivation yet. We haven't found the right reason. The option's still open. You can always take it. It's always there. But you can only take it once. But you can always take it. It's the ultimate trump card. He extrapolates that to just this funny, just like very real, very honest, but very dark and very twisted, like just sort of analysis of, like, I guess, modern depression and but also very honest, truthful, like, you know, one morning you wake up, you're just like, fuck this, I don't have to fucking go to work, I can just kill myself.
Another one of Louis' talents is that he takes, like, some, like, stupid statement that's kind of like, duh, and everybody knows that, but he puts it in a way to where it's like, oh, I never thought of it like that before.
Yeah,
Like, of course, all of the people on Earth are the ones that haven't killed themselves, but you've never heard anybody put it that way before, and, like, he says it, and, like, it's like, oh my god, that's fucking genius. Like,
yeah, one of my other favorite bits of his was always the peanut allergy kid bit, where he was always just like, wouldn't it be better if we all just sort of ignored the peanut allergy thing and just let nature take its course? Like, like that bit, like, because it's like, well, what was the bit? Because he had a name for that. Do you remember? It was like, of course, but maybe. Yeah, that was it. Of course, but maybe. Like, of course, peanut allergy kids should be protected, but maybe we should just let nature take its course. That was how the bit was done. I always loved that. But yeah, exactly the same thing. He takes this obvious, like, well, yeah, I guess, like, because then peanut allergy wouldn't be a thing, presumably. Although not really. It would just continue to crop up, and you would just continue to kill more and more people. And until eventually it would disappear millions of years from now, presumably, when humanity is also probably extinct. But yeah, it's like that. Well, duh. But he makes it very funny, and he also continues it with a million other examples. And he gets so far into giving examples that he gets into little sub stories that really that make you forget he was making a point, and then he'll just kill you when he immediately brings it back to the point, and to the point where it's laugh out loud hysterical.
Anyway, so I was watching The Wizard of Oz. Like, he just
exactly.
Back. Or one of my favorite bits, the bit about the deer. He starts out that bit. I don't remember which special that was on. Was it Live from the Beacon Theater?
The deer bit? No, that was from Chewed Up.
Oh, okay, yeah, Chewed Up. So he starts the story, but he's talking about a time that he hit a deer, and the story was going to Walgreens because we needed toilet paper, because I threw out all the toilet paper in the house so that I could get out. So he starts off like that. I went to Walgreens, and then he goes on this tirade about how he hit a deer. So he's got everybody worked up into a frenzy. He's just delivered this amazing line about how the deer is a cunt and a nigger. And then he immediately just comes back and says, so anyway, I would go to Walgreens. And,
yeah. My favorite bit of that was always when he pantomimes the deer dragging its fucking broken neck across the highway. That always slaughters me. My favorite moment when watching a stand-up comedy special.
My favorite part of that is always when he's like, I would fucking blow like 20 guys with bleeding dicks just so I could get AIDS, and then fuck the deer and kill it with my AIDS.
Yeah, like, I always love when he takes, like, he just extrapolates something to the point of absolute absurdity that it has to be funny, even if it's horribly fucked up. Like, you remember the bit where he was, I don't remember what special it was in, where he's like, you know, I would try fucking a kid. Like, a dead kid. Like, you know, if you just come across it in the field, who are you hurting? Yeah. That's a horribly dark, terrible fucking bit. But it's fascinating and hysterical.
Well, it's also hilarious whenever he does any kind of, like, gay shit in one of his bits. I don't know why, but he always makes it, like, super funny. Like in the bit you were talking about earlier about the kid.
He always justifies his homophobia, doesn't he?
In the one you were talking about earlier about the kid that goes to his daughter's schools that he can't stand, he talks about this elaborate plan that he has to, like, fuck this kid's mom and then turn himself gay so that he can fuck the kid's dad and turn the kid's dad gay and then
break the family, yeah, and then
confuse the dad sexually, but also confusing himself in the process. And then at the end of that bit, he's like, "But hey, man, you got to protect your kids. I mean, I got to suck that dick. That's my baby girl." Like,
that is a great bit. That was from Live at the Beacon Theater.
he does that. He does that in 2017 too. The bit that he goes on towards the very end of the show, where he's talking about how like he watches Magic Mike.
Yes.
And he's playing a game of chicken with Magic Mike, where like he gets to this part that he likes, and then he has to shut it off immediately after that because he said, "I know how that movie ends. I'm pretty sure the ending of that movie is that I'm gay, and I don't want to see the end."
I love the moment too where that he does this spot on Matthew McConaughey impression, and I forget what's the line.
The law says you cannot touch, but I think I see a lot of lawbreakers out here.
Yeah, that's right. I've never seen Magic Mike D. Have you?
I have not. No.
It's unfortunate for us. Is there anything?
I'm not going to because I'm pretty sure the ending of that movie is I'm gay, and I don't want to.
Was there any bit you didn't like in Louis C.K. 2017?
Not that spring to mind.
Yeah, no, I mean, me neither. Nothing leaps to mind where I'm like, oh, I didn't like that. I mean, he always sort of does, like, he does a bit of a similar arc every time, where he always opens on some dark, horrible thing, and then he transitions into his kids. Then he transitions back into some dark, horrible thing. Then he always goes back to sex, and his love life. And I think the sex love life part, to me, always just feels like, yep, this is what every stand-up comedian does. So it's not, again, not that it's bad. It's always like the part where I'm always like, yep, here we go. Same routine.
I think maybe, and I didn't go back and rewatch all of his specials to like confirm this for myself, but I think one thing that 2017 definitely has the edge in is I think it might be my favorite way for him to open a special yet. Like he just walks out on the stage, everybody's cheering because he's fucking Louis C.K., and then once they calm down, he goes, "So I think abortion."
Yeah, that it's brilliant. He's definitely sharper than he's been in a long time in the 2017 special.
He goes, "My stand on abortion is don't do it unless you need one."
Yes.
In which case, you better get one.
And you better do it soon. Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah, it was a really fan. Again, he always does a similar arc, but when he hits hard with the parts of his arc, it's great. But I can't remember a single specific thing from the sex bit in the 2017 special, so they're always the least memorable to me.
The only one I can remember is at the very end. He's talking about how he romantically likes the idea of having a boyfriend, but then he says, "But the only thing is to get all the nice parts, you have to get a fucking cock shoved up."
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, that was actually pretty funny. See, again, not bad, just not memorable to me. Not the parts that stand out.
Also love the bit where he's talking about like the old couple, and then like the husband dies, and then the wife dies, and the husband's been like dead for 10 years.
Oh, that is also really funny. Yes. Yeah, so nothing bad here, and I think also my favorite of the three specials that we watched. How about you?
Yeah, I would say so.
Well, all right then. So why don't we move on? This is the order that I watched them. I hope you don't mind. I'm going to go in this order. Why don't we move on then to Jim Gaffigan? Moving on to a not that he's not adult humor oriented, but doesn't curse. Non-cursing stand-up comedian Jim Gaffigan with Cinco. Now, you and I also have a shared affinity for Jim Gaffigan, but I mostly got into Jim Gaffigan based on your recommendation, and I watched what was that special called? The one he did in 2014. Maybe it was 2013. Do you remember?
No, I don't.
Fuck. Look at us. I don't remember either, but I like that one a lot. And then this obviously the new one came out, so I was into checking it out. What did you think of his new special, though?
I enjoyed it. I don't think it wasn't my favorite one that he's done. It might be my least favorite of the three that we're talking about in this episode. But I
think I would have to agree.
But yeah, I liked it.
He sort of, but and again, he's also very good at being self-aware. All three of the comedians that we're talking about tonight, kings of self-awareness.
Yeah. Jim Gaffigan's best thing are his food bits.
But that's all he does, though. That's what I was about to bring up, is that he does an hour on food. Like, that's with other weight-related humor in between that, and then he does a little bit of kid talk, a little bit of religion talk, then it's back to the food.
There's some kid talk, and there's some. My wife's Catholic, so that's weird. And then there's some lots of his fake audience voice, which is one of my favorite things. You would think it would get
again. Self-awareness is key, and he is really good at it because of that killer voice. It's so hilarious.
How many jokes about bacon does this guy have? Like, it's I can't really do it justice, but it's brilliant.
He's got as many food jokes as he does layers of fat.
Like, so he does a lot of food jokes. The problem with this one is he does like sort of an anti-food joke this time around. He doesn't really talk about food he likes in this. He has a whole bit about like fish.
No,
and,
it's mostly him hating himself, this special.
Yeah. I think he's trying to get away from the food bits, and I'm like, nah, Jimmy, like, you got to get back to the food bits.
Yeah. I do like that he opens where he's just like, yeah, this weight is real. This isn't a prosthetic. This is all genuine. I put a lot of work into this.
Yeah. Oh, one of my actually was a pretty good audience voice bit near the beginning. Let's see how fat this guy's gotten.
Yeah. I like that a lot. I like that a lot as well. His religion bits kill me though, because he's so self-aware about like, oh, here we go. His friend Jesus is coming in.
Yeah. Oh, he had some good religion bits this time around too. Like the whole like, I speak English, the language that Jesus spoke.
Yeah. Again, I think this one was the least memorable. I can't really pick out a lot of specific bits from memory.
Yeah.
I do like all the bits about his kids where he's just like, I take care of one kid per day, and then leave the rest to fend for themselves, or my wife to take care of them. But because that's all I can handle.
I was saying before that I think Louis C.K. has the best kid bits. I think Jim Gaffigan is like a second on that front. I always really enjoy his kid humor.
He's got 5, so he's got sort of an interesting play on the whole situation, don't he?
He does have quite a large pool to draw from in that regard.
They all seem to have similar relationships with their wives. I mean, Louis C.K. obviously is divorced, so no, not on his front. But him, Bill Burr. I'm trying to think of another example of just a comedian who just has like this weird, almost adversarial relationship with their wife. Kevin Smith certainly does, even though he's not a stand-up comedian.
The marriage thing is very recent for Bill Burr.
Yeah, that's true.
He's always just sort of talked about, oh, my girlfriend this and my girlfriend that. It was only sort of recently that I was like, I'm married now. So doesn't have a kid though. He's got to get in on that kid joke market, man. It always kills for some reason.
He doesn't seem like the kind of guy who wants to have kids.
People like to leave their kids at home with the nanny and then go listen to a stand-up comedian talk about how much kids suck. Like that's a purchase market.
I'd love to see Bill Burr try to be a father though. That would lead to some brilliant bits because Jim Jeffries has turned it into like a fucking odyssey.
Yeah. That fucking bit in the last Jim Jeffries special. He needs to put out another one like Toot Sweet, but that fucking bit in the last one where he got his kid vaccinated and he's like, definitely has autism now. Like, it was fucking great.
Free Dumb is brilliant and and a standout for him. The last special that I saw of his I didn't love prior to that. That one was a return to form for him. It was just like absolutely killer. He also does super long ones too.
The last one before Freedom was Bear. You didn't like Bear?
Maybe it wasn't that one. Because is that the one with the gun control?
Yes.
Then I actually liked that one. It was the one prior to that I didn't love.
Yeah, I don't even remember what that one was called. And sadly, only the next Netflix one are still available on Netflix.
I see. But all right, back to Jim Gaffigan. So again, not really a whole lot to say, to be honest. Kind of unmemorable. Not bad by any stretch, but just sort of him doing him, right?
Yeah. What do you think your favorite Jim Gaffigan bit is ever? I'm not entirely sure.
I just had it in my head, and I now I can't remember it.
I think it's kind of a tie for me. Obviously, the Hot Pocket bit is legendary.
Yeah, I mean Hot Pocket
Hot
Responded
Pocket
to it.
defined his career. However, if I had to pick a second to Hot Pocket, it would have to be the. Do you remember the swimming pool bit? Uh,
Mm-mm.
he had a swimming pool bit in one of his specials where he talks about how like weird it is when you're on vacation and you go like in a hotel pool, and like he did that voice of the person at the pool. It's like, what room are you staying in?
Oh yeah, that's right. I remember that. um, huh. I'm trying to think of a specific bit now. I had it before, and now I just cannot remember. I cannot remember which. Okay, here's one that I remember. When he talked about how his wife gave birth at home, and he was like, because we practice witchcraft.
Yeah. He's good at sort of those little deliveries like that of just like one-off lines that
Yeah,
like are
like a little
not
aside. Yeah,
separate.
he's always good at that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
He had a few jokes in this latest special about the seasons that were pretty good.
and I did like that he was self-aware about the fact like this guy's making jokes about seasons now.
Yeah.
He does definitely have a little bit of that like small talky humor, which is it's a little more wholesome. But again, he's distinctive for not having the adult humor, and he doesn't need it.
No.
He's so goofy and so self-aware, but he doesn't stray away from talking about adult topics. He just doesn't curse.
Right. Yeah. Occasionally he'll talk about sex and shit. I remember one bit where he was talking about how like he'll like abuse hotel rooms or something, you know. But like, yeah, he doesn't cuss.
He's clean.
He's the kind of comedian that you can watch with an open-minded grandmother if you have one of those. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know if much of those exist these days, but sure.
my grandmother fucking watches Jeff Dunham, so that counts.
That's cool.
But
I guess Jeff Dunham counts as stand-up comedy, right?
it's ventriloquism. It's kind of, I guess you could consider it like a subcategory.
I suppose. But all right. So why don't we move on to the final one then? Bill Burr, Walk Your Way Out.
Oh, I did want to say my favorite of all time.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
The Jim Gaffigan audience voice things, because they don't really count as bits. They're just little asides that he throws in. But my favorite one, I think, was when he was doing this special where he did like a ton of bacon jokes. And at one point he was just like, if he does one more joke about bacon, I'm going to kill him.
that was.
And then immediately after saying that, he's like, see, the thing about bacon.
Yeah, no, he's great. He has it, but he has his stuff that he talks about, and he hammers it home to the point where it's hilarious. That's what he does. But all right. So you ready to move on to Bill Burr?
Fuck yeah. Let's move on to Bill Burr.
Walk Your Way Out. What do you think, D?
I fucking love Bill Burr in general.
Yeah, and he's pretty amazing. That last black and white special, ooh, killer.
He is certainly true to form here. He might be maybe second to me after Louis. I'm not sure about that though. I'd have to do some serious soul searching and compare him to some other people. But he's up there, man. He's one of my top favorites.
I would have to agree. He's up there for me as well.
And he's always fucking great. Trying to think. The best bit in this show, bar none, the thing that I kept telling you, like, Bill, you got to see this shit, is the gorilla shit near the end.
Yeah, Again, I don't feel like we've talked enough about this. Telling a story is the key here. Louis is good at it. Again, the whole sub-story thing is what Louis he's good at weaving a massive tapestry. Jim Gaffigan, not so much a storyteller as much as just an analyzer, as much as just like, let's talk about how weird this is.
Yeah.
But Bill Burr, killer storyteller. The helicopter bit is always a favorite of mine for Bill Burr.
The helicopter bit might be my favorite story he's ever told. He has his own gun control bit that while
when he shot the gun, that was always a favorite bit of mine, where he just goes deaf for like a solid minute.
While not as famous as the Jim Jeffries gun control bit that exploded, he does have one that's pretty fucking good.
They're also very different.
Yeah, In that one, instead of drawing the humor from, the gun's locked in a safe, well, it's no fucking protection. His was like the parts were all over the house, and he had to like run around and assemble them while this guy was in his house with a scythe. Like, um, it's pretty fucking great. The helicopter story, though, definitely a high note. But that gorilla bit, man, in this special, the single thing that I walked away from that thing really remembering, honestly, like I think that singular bit might be stronger than any one individual bit from the Louis special. It's just the Louis special is stronger overall. You know what I mean? Like the moment in that bit where he's like, where he stops, he's like leaving the gorilla on the island, and he's going back out to sea, and then he just stops and he's like, "Did I just fucking start Planet of the Apes? I died. Like I fucking died."
Yeah, I was like sort of thinking, is he referencing Planet of the Apes? And then he just said it, and I was like, oh, this is great. But what just really killed me is that it switched so quickly to that, because it seemed kind of out of character for him. Because the whole special, he very much so puts himself in the shoes of somebody who's like, I'm not necessarily in line with the way that everybody perceives things in the mainstream. I don't really understand how the modern world works. I'm sort of an outsider, and I'm crazy, and I need to vent my insanity. Like the bit where he talks about how he was sitting in a green room waiting to go on, and then he was imagining hanging himself and how hilarious it would be. like that's the kind of stuff that he talks about. And he makes fun of pop culture a lot. Like he makes fun of he makes fun of shaming, like slut shaming, and what was the other, and fat shaming and all that. He does a whole bit on fat shaming. Just like Jim Gaffigan does bits about how fat he is, Bill Burr does bits about how he thinks that he should still be allowed to make fun of fat people, and I would have to agree. It's something that Ricky Gervais has always talked about as well. Ricky Gervais has always fought against people trying to persuade others that he's wrong in his humor about people who are overweight, and that it's wrong and not politically correct. And sort of the war between, what is funny and what is politically correct. Bill Burr and Ricky Gervais have always been like sort of on the forefront of that. Because they're just like, they say whatever they want. They're very clear about that. They're like, when we get up on the stage, we're going to fucking say whatever the hell we want.
Yeah.
And it's great. And Bill Burr, king of that. And it's just, and he always knows how to make it funny. It didn't always work for me this time. I felt like he did that a little too much, like in this special. He was almost sort of like using that as a crutch to sort of go, well, that's just what I'm gonna say, and that's it. He did a little too many times, but man, just some really killer bits in this. But the gorilla bit was definitely a standout. Especially when the guy goes back. And the gorilla starts talking like a fucking mobster, and he's just like, "Where's the kitten?"
Yeah, yeah.
And they just start having like a legit conversation, and the guy's like, "I don't know how to tell you this, but kitty cat's dead." It's really killer.
And the fucking sign language he was doing in that bit was great too. He's like, "Get me the fuck out of here."
Yeah.
I think maybe a close second is the bit earlier on in the special where he was talking about how he would reduce the population by just sinking cruise ships randomly.
Yes, that was also great, where he's like, that was the mistake that every genocidal maniac has ever made. Sinking ships on, killing people on land where there's always going to be evidence. What are you going to do with all that shit? That's a quote that he has. But sinking it out to water instantly disposes of the evidence. And also, Bill Burr has one of my favorite lines. I think this single line is the greatest line in all the specials we've talked about tonight. When he goes, Hitler was the Michael Jordan of evil. Because I don't know who was the staple of calling somebody evil prior to Hitler. But after Hitler, nobody else comes close. Whenever you want to describe somebody as being evil, you say they are the Hitler of whatever they are. He is the Michael Jordan of evil.
I also love the whole rant he has about how even though Stalin killed more people, Hitler still has that mystique. He's like, why don't Stalin's kills count? And that killed me because I've always thought about that myself. I was like, wait, he killed more people. Why isn't he the guy?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I also loved the bit where he was like, thank God Kanye's ego was put into a black person's body. Because I don't think a white body could handle that level of insanity. if because then that's how a genocidal killer is born. I thought that bit was like he's very clearly walking a racial line here, and I think it's kind of hilarious, especially because he's talking about Kanye.
Bill Burr, he has this just amazing talent. I mean, you were talking about how he can tell a story like fucking nobody else. You just fucking let him talk. You just let him go. He's one of the fucking best people to see on a talk show. You know, I don't watch late night talk shows, but apparently I'll watch clips from them if somebody's on one that I like. You know, and I've seen a lot of clips of Bill Burr on like these fucking like Conan or whatever, or Jimmy Kimmel. And like he's always just like the best fucking person to have in a talk show because the host has to do very little work. Like he just fucking goes. Like he's always switched on. He has his own podcast that he does on Monday mornings. It's called the Monday Morning Podcast, and he's alone most of the time on that podcast. Like his wife's in there with him sometimes, but like
I didn't know Bill Burr did a podcast. That's dope. I want to listen. I'm gonna listen to the shit out of that tomorrow when I'm working.
A lot of it is just him alone. Like, and I'm not sure. I haven't listened to it in a while. His wife might be on it more now that they're married, but I know at one point it was like she would only come in every so often. For the most part, it was him alone. And like, I can't imagine carrying a podcast. Can you imagine carrying a podcast alone, Bill?
I would have no problem with it. I've done 3-hour reviews, son. You don't know me at all.
Well, I mean, a review is one thing, but a fucking podcast? Like, what are you gonna do? Like, I don't know.
Well, you'd have to come up with some topics prior. I mean, I once tried to do a news show where I just read news on the air. But yeah, you have to have something to talk about. What does he talk about? Does he just rant?
Well, the only thing I don't like about the podcast is, you know, he's a sports guy, and sometimes he'll talk sports, and I just don't give a shit about sports. That's always been one thing. Like even in his specials, he'll talk sports sometimes.
Yeah, I did love when he was like, "What? You don't like a sports analogy? You don't give a shit when I'm talking about Hitler, but I bring up a sports analogy. Ooh."
Yeah, so he talks sports every now and then, and you know, I just tune that out. It's not really my bag. But he talks about an array of subjects. A lot of times it'll be people writing into him, and he'll like respond to like questions and shit. A lot of people write in and ask him relationship advice, and he's like, "I'm so not the guy." Like,
oh, he does write-ins and shit too.
He does write-ins. He does all kinds of shit. He doesn't really have like, he doesn't have like one topic that he like focuses on extensively. He'll talk about some news stories here and there. He'll do write-ins. Again, he'll talk sports every now and then and whatever. But yeah, he talks about a lot of shit on there.
Interesting.
It's just him in a room with a microphone. Like that like it's insane to me.
Again, but if you have something to talk about, go for it. Like, you know, you can talk about a movie you watched or whatever. You just have to approach it with some idea of what you're going to say, and then you can just rant from there. I could do that, no problem.
It's totally different from
yeah, I'm sure he would. I'm sure he could do it. I'm not downplaying what he's doing because he probably does it a million times. Like it's probably actually funny when he does it and actually worth listening to. But I'm saying that I could do an approximation of that. That's what I mean.
And what's really hilarious is that whenever he talks about a subject that's like kind of over his head, he's always the first to point out. He's like, I don't know shit. Like.
Yeah, well, we do that too. Like that's very important for comedy. Like we try to do that whenever possible to sort of qualify ourselves because we don't want to overstep our boundaries, and we want to be honest with you guys, and every comedian wants to at least portray that they are being straight up with the audience because otherwise the audience isn't going to laugh with them.
Also, while we're on the subject of Bill Burr, everybody, if you haven't already, go fucking watch his fucking animated show on Netflix, F is for Family.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I still haven't finished the first season, but it's there's not many episodes, and it's it's concise, it's sharp, it's brilliant.
It's like the best shit. Like it might be my second favorite.
It's modern day That 70s Show, and except it cuts deeper than That 70s Show, I think.
Yeah, obviously it's animated, so they can do all kinds of shit, but
And
yeah,
Bill,
it's probably my second favorite animated adult show, right after South Park, honestly.
And one consistent thing that I think we've said with all three of these comedians that we focused on tonight, they've all got very distinctive voices, and I think that's also very key. And they all do distinctive voices. You know, Louis got his prissy gay guy and all his other racist voices. Jim Gaffigan has his annoyed audience member. And then Bill Burr has his normal voice, and he does a million impressions. His Hitler is great.
His normal voice on its own is just like fucking hilarious. Like,
yeah, it's exactly right. Like it's you just want to listen to him. You're right. Like he talks and you just want to listen to him because you're just like, that's hilarious. Whatever the hell he's saying.
Also, he does this thing, and I think he's doing a Jerry Lewis, but I'm not entirely sure. He just does this thing randomly when he says the word lady, where instead of just saying lady, he'll go, lady! Like,
Yeah.
um,
Oh, he's a master, man. This special, I don't know if it's my favorite for him. I've really liked the black and white one. I think the black and white special for him will always be my favorite.
that one was really good. Also, the one he did before that.
Yeah, that was the one that got me into him. Although my entry point for Bill Burr was actually he did a guest spot on Hollywood Babylon when Kevin Smith was out one week. So I was familiar with him prior to me getting into his stand-up.
I should track that down because I'll fucking
early on in the show's run. Yeah,
I'll fucking listen to anything Bill Burr's on. Honestly,
yeah, he's
he's
great.
just that entertaining.
He's great. He also did a guest spot on Breaking Bad.
Yes, he was on Breaking Bad. He was only on there once, right?
He was in a couple episodes, but it was only for like one arc. It was the part where he worked for Saul. It was the part where Skyler was having the affair.
And I remember when I watched that, I had no idea that it was. I didn't realize it was him at first. Then later on, I looked back and I was like, "It's fucking Bill Burr."
Yeah, he's great. He's a great actor. I mean, not that I'm saying no, who would have realized, but he's not like being an over the top like, hey, look at me, I'm Bill Burr. He's being a really freaky dude.
Yeah.
But anyway, so D, we have reached an hour. Is there anything else you wanted to say about the Bill Burr special specifically?
I'm trying to think if there were any like standout bits. I talked about the gorilla shit was amazing, and obviously the cruise ship thing. There was something else in there too that I remember laughing a lot at.
The Michael Jackson of Evil line is my standout bit, and his Hitler stuff in general also stand out. Because he was also like, you know, there was also a moment where he was like, I just want to learn German just so I can understand what the fuck he's saying, because it just sounds like insanity to me. There's got to be something in the insanity that made people listen to him, because I don't know.
Yeah, you never know though, because German is a very harsh language.
I think that was the point of his joke. I think he was aware of that, but he was at the same time just like, it still sounds fucking insane. And coming out of Hitler's mouth, it only seems more insane.
Especially when you're speaking at that level, like to a crowd, and you're like trying to. Yeah, like no wonder them and Japan were allies, because Japanese is kind of like the Asian German. They also have a very harsh language where like they like put a lot of emphasis on a lot of things. You know, it's like you know, it's kind of frightening.
It's I would say it's very frightening, as a matter of fact. But any other standout bits that you wanted to bring up as like the one that you really were like, oh, that was quite humorous, I would have to say.
I know there was some others in there that I liked, but they're not coming to mind at the moment. So,
any bits that you didn't like? Definitely not on my end. I can't think of a thing.
I can't think of any. Maybe if we had recorded this closer to the time that I watched it, maybe. But at the moment...
Well, fine, ND, if you're going to fucking shoot barbs like that.
No, I'm just saying, at the moment, there's some distance between me watching that and us recording this, and I can't think of any bits that I thought were kind of weaker. But, I don't know.
Oh, I also liked the bit where he was like, you know, one time my wife brought me a sandwich and a beer. Didn't ask for it, she just did. And I still fantasize about that sandwich and that beer to this day. That was 4 years ago, and I'm just like, that is amazing.
You know, we talked with Louis C.K. and Gaffigan about like favorite all-time bits of theirs. Fucking one thing, Bill Burr, whenever he talks about women, is always like some of the best shit. Like, you know, he has the one bit where he's talking about Chris Brown and Rihanna, and he's like, he asked the question that everybody was afraid to ask. He's like, I wonder what led to this.
Yeah.
And then goes on this whole bit about like,
I'm pretty sure he had like just anger problems in general, though, just to be real.
like he goes on this whole bit like, no, why can't we ever talk about this shit? Like, some dude hits his wife and everybody acts like it just came out of the fucking blue. Like,
Chris Brown though also he went on an interview for Good Morning America, broke a window and then stormed out. So he had anger issues in general. Interestingly, Bill Burr talks about how he himself has anger management issues on the show.
Yeah. There's another one. There's another one too on the subject of women. I'm trying to think of it that was really great. Fuck. Yeah, I had it a minute ago. God damn it. Oh, the part where he talks about the epidemic of gold digging whores, and he tells the story of Arnold Schwarzenegger, a great man, and how he slept with that maid or whatever. Fucking great.
Oh right. I don't think I ever heard that bit. I should though. That sounds hilarious.
You probably did. You just don't remember it. It's in one of the specials. It's on fucking. I don't think it's in the black and white one, or maybe it was on the black and white one.
I've seen all the ones that are on Netflix or have been, so I guess I must have heard it then.
Yeah. You probably just don't remember it.
I suppose not.
So other recent stand-up comedy specials that we aren't reviewing here, but I would recommend people go watch. Obviously, the two Chappelle ones are great. Dave Chappelle's
I didn't
back.
get the chance to watch those yet, but I will.
Dave Chappelle's back, and he's in form.
Didn't Rock do a new one, or is he preparing to do a new one? I think he's preparing to do a new one.
I don't know. He might be preparing one. I know Kevin Hart. One just came up on Netflix for Kevin Hart today.
Do you like Kevin Hart?
He's not one of my favorites, but I enjoy him. You know.
I like him as an actor. I don't like him as a stand-up comedian. His bits are too. They're too like, yeah, that's true. It's not funny. Like that's his bits to me. He's a little too mainstream for me.
He's kind of hit or miss.
Trevor Noah.
Trevor Noah, and I don't know. I enjoyed his first couple specials, but after he went on the Daily Show, I stopped liking him.
Really?
So I haven't watched his new one yet.
I don't know. I haven't watched his new special yet either, but I don't know. That first special was fucking amazing. So, and I've enjoyed him on the Daily Show so far. I haven't had any problems with him.
There was this great fucking bit though in the Dave Chappelle one of the Dave Chappelle specials. I don't remember which one that I want to tell you about. He's fucking talking about these original superhero ideas that he has, and one of them there was like a moral dilemma because this superhero only could activate his powers by raping people.
Oh my god!
And so he talks about so he rapes, but he saves more than he rapes. And he rapes less than he saves, you know, and that was he kept saying that a couple times, like he grilled that into the audience head. So then later on in the show, he was talking about Bill Cosby, and he said, you know, it's kind of crazy to find out that this guy was a rapist because, you know, I remember like he did all these good deeds, like he established this like Negro college and like blah blah blah. He talks about all this great shit that Bill Cosby did, you know, philanthropically over the years. And he goes, so my point is this: he rapes, but he saves more than he rapes.
I'm gonna have to give that a go now. Have to. But any others?
Jim Norton. Don't know if anybody in the audience is familiar with Jim Norton. Guy kind of looks like a turtle. A lot of really his comedy is like mostly sex jokes. Like he's on that side of the spectrum. But his new special is pretty fucking great. It's got an amazing opening where he's like going around to different people and asking them to do like an opening introduction. At one point, he knocks on Louis' door to ask him to do it, and Louis just slams the door in his face.
Donald Glover. Donald Glover has a couple of great specials on Netflix.
Oh yeah, Donald Glover.
He does an amazing bit about him, the fan rumors of him being Spider-Man. And
you know what's weird? I keep thinking to myself, you know, I should probably get into some female comedians, but I don't know. I've tried a few, and I've never found any that really like fucking sold me. You know what I mean?
No, I like Ellen DeGeneres again. I'm trying to think of another more adult one that I like. They exist. I've listened to them and I've liked them, but it's just not recent.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody has any suggestions about a good female stand-up comedian. I've been looking for some. I'm like, you know, I should probably get into that. But
For
I don't know.
Throw them down in the comments. We'd love to give them a shot.
I just haven't found any yet that really I fell in love with.
Joe Rogan, obviously, not always a traditional stand-up comedian, but he does have a recent great special, Triggered.
Yeah, that Triggered was really good. And the one he did back in the day, that's I think is still up on Netflix. The one where he's wearing the beanie, that's a pretty good special.
We mentioned Tom Segura earlier. He has 2 killer Netflix specials. Duke of Shoes.
Yeah, Dookie Shoes. Oh, are you familiar with John Mulaney?
I watched one of his specials. Yeah, I enjoyed him quite fine. He didn't knock my socks off, but I enjoyed him fine.
He had that really great story about the what was that? I think he was going in for a proctology exam or something, and like the story where the nurse was dressed like Batman. I don't know, or not dressed like Batman, but he like had like fuck. It's been too long since I saw that special. I can't remember the specifics of the story, but it was a good story. Is what I'm trying to get out.
I'm trying to think of any more stand-up comedians I wanted to give a shout out to. I can't think of any. Again, Chris Rock. Chris Rock had an incredible stand-up special when Obama was elected. That special is legendary. Give it a watch. Ooh, Robin Williams' Weapons of Self-Destruction. Another iconic one from my youth that I go back to still to this day. Brilliant.
Really recently deceased Charlie Murphy, brother of Eddie Murphy. Sad story, but he was a good guy. Eddie Murphy obviously has some old stand-up specials from back in the day. They're a little dated. A lot of non-ironic homophobia in some old Eddie Murphy specials. So
oh yeah, that's right. Ugh, no good.
But trying to think down there. I know there are more. There's always more. You know, it's weird. It's not a huge profession, but there are a lot of good names. You know, like
Dane Cook's early stuff is okay, but the obviously like post 2005, no. I don't know.
Fuck! I watched that fucking new Amy Schumer one just because I wanted to see, because everybody was like, "Oh, it's the worst fucking thing ever." I was like,
I've never listened. I've never heard her. I'm not familiar with her at all.
I've seen a few of her older specials that were okay. Like she was never great in my opinion, but she got really popular, and I watched a little bit of her stuff, and she was always sort of like okay. But I watched this latest special because everybody was talking about, "Oh, it's the fucking worst thing ever," and I was like, let's see what all the fuss is about. It was painfully unfunny.
Wasn't the audience even like audibly not amused?
I didn't laugh out loud once. Like she got a few slight chuckles out of me here and there. But for the most part, I was just like, no. What's weird is it was all material that felt like it should have been funny. Like maybe she just needed to develop it a little more, or maybe her delivery was off or something. But
I don't know. I'll have to give her earlier work a shot then, I guess, to find out what all the fuss has been about. But
yeah, I don't really understand why she's so popular anyway, except that she's a chick that talks like one of the guys. I think that's what got her famous.
There are so many probably better female stand-up comedians that go for that gimmick, though.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, D, let's start to wrap this up because I'm feeling a little tired, but also we've named so many comedians. I feel like we're beating the audience over the head with names. So here's how I want to wrap this up.
I will say this: anybody in the audience who maybe has never gotten into stand-up comedy before, Netflix right now is a great resource for that. It's one of the best places to get into some stand-up comedy. It's sort of become the place to put your new specials. Like it's kind of replaced HBO and Comedy Central.
Louis has totally given himself over to Netflix in terms of distributing his content.
Oh yeah, it's fucking great. Go over there, and just look at a few of these names we've been mentioning. Watch yourself some Louis, and some Bill Burr and some Gaffigan and some fucking watch those guys. And if after all that you're still not feeling it, then maybe stand-up comedy just isn't for you. But
sit down. Then.
Yeah.
Well, here's what I want to ask you then: would you ever do it yourself, stand up?
I don't know, man.
I wrote material when I was younger.
I remember that material.
Oh yeah, we talked about it on the podcast at one point. I was always into the idea of it. I just don't know if I would be any good at it. I would have to get better at improv and everything. I could do it if I had stories prepared.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's one of those things where I every now and then when I'm watching stand-up comedy, because sometimes I don't watch stand-up comedy all the time, but I go down rabbit holes every now and then.
It's the same. And the preparation for this podcast was my latest one.
Every now and then I'll just be like, let's binge all the Louis specials again. And so somewhere in the middle, there's always a point where I'm like, I could totally do this. And then I'm like, but I probably never would. Like, I don't know if that's just from watching so much of it that I feel like I have an understanding of the art form that kind of makes me feel cocky about it. But, there are moments where I'm like, I could probably do that. And then I'm like, I'm not going to do though. That seems like a lot of work.
I certainly feel that. Well, I maybe when I'm a little older, it's something I'll give a shot. But right now, it doesn't really seem feasible. I don't think I could really do it successfully. So, just sort of a hopeful thing I might be able to do down the line because it looks like a blast, and being able to make money off that, that would be amazing.
And it would be super easy for me because fat guys they get to lean on the fat guy humor. Like it's like a built-in crutch. It's wonderful.
Dude, I'm a stoner. I've got an inbuilt thing here.
Sure, you've got the stoner thing. I've got the fat guy. We could be a comedy duo, Bill. Stoner and the fat man.
Exactly, we're the modern day Jay and Silent Bob, except we both talk, maybe too much. Well, I'm glad that we found a good gimmick. We can take DFOS on the road, and we hope that you'll be there to support us as we travel the country, making people cringe at our darkness and not laugh at our darkness. Anyway. So that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Demons from Outer Space. We hope you enjoyed. A little bit of a different topic this time, but I think it certainly worked out for the best. We found ourselves at another crossroads of not knowing what we're going to talk about next week, which is unfortunate.
Well, I thought we determined that after the stand-up thing, if we didn't have any other ideas, that we would just do the next installment in our X-Men review.
All right, then that's the plan. Then there you go. That's what we're gonna do. Then we're gonna do X3, The Last Stand, and X-Men Origins Wolverine in one video.
Yeah, we're gonna cover all the shit at once and get it out of the fucking way, and also ask the question, which is worse? Which I already have my answer to, but we'll see how Bill comes out of it feling. Have you seen
I've never seen Last Stand in full. I'm intimately familiar with X-Men Origins, so now my money is on X-Men Origins because what I've seen of The Last Stand, I've just sort of been like, eh. But we'll see if that changes this time. But we hope you'll join us for that review, and we hope you join us continuously in the future. You can like us on Facebook, as always, on the Sons of Sarazawa Network homepage. As well as Godzilla Odyssey. Follow me on Twitter at Bill_Worster, Snapchat at the Sassiest T-Rex. So find us there. Dylan, just keep listening to these podcasts.
All right.
That's pretty much all. So until next time, I'm Bill Worster K. Zazabar.
And I'm Super DM64. Also, be on the lookout. We have plans in the very near future to record the latest installment in our Godzilla Odyssey retrospective series. This one took a little bit longer to get to you good people just because we had to get Andres for it, and so that's a little bit of a scheduling nightmare. But
he's a pain in the ass. No, I'm kidding.
But we're getting them. We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. Damn it.
Supposedly we're recording it tomorrow, so hopefully it'll be up soon.
We're shooting for tomorrow. I'm not crossing my fingers, but
we got to get the title card ready for that too.
So everybody look for that in the near future. Also for the. Not sure yet if it's going to be only one more video or two more videos, but Bill will be concluding our classic sci-fi lists in the immediate future.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep editing those until it's done, and then we're gonna do the next installment of that not too long after. So keep on the lookout, kids. Things are coming.